So let me just quickly talk about Women Who Code. Our mission is to inspire women to excel in technology careers, and want to build a world where diverse women are better represented as engineers and tech leaders. We have a formal code of conduct that is about inclusive community and inclusion of all kind. You can read the code of conduct on Women Who Code website. Um, One can sign up on Women Who Code Hyderabad meetup page. You can see meetup.com/women-who-code-Hyderabad, and you can see the events we currently have and upcoming. And we are a new community. We just started out in March this year, and have more than 800 members currently. This is the 11th event that we are running. The impact we want to create, we want to upskill and cross-skill, get women back to work program, and provide technical mentoring and hands-on coding experience. So we are just about to launch back to work program for women. And we want to support and mentor women in early technology careers, provide exposure to wide spectrum of opportunities, scholarships, hackathons, etc. Our team is what defines our community, and we basically want to focus on technology, innovation, and leadership, all three tracks. You can see various technology tracks here: front-end, mobile, Python, blockchain, cloud, data science, etc. And today we are running basically a tech leadership talk with Darshana Pai. Women Who Code completed the global virtual annual event Connect Reimagine 2021 during June 10 to 11. And this was an online event this year. Same way, we just had a Women Who Code Connect India 2021 event, two-day event on August 27th and September 3rd, 2021. And basically this was also an online event, provided networking opportunities, panel discussions, and a number of tech panels. We are a global community of 290,000 plus members worldwide, and it's not just a global community. Women Who Code resources can be accessed anywhere in the world. While many communities kind of became dormant during pandemic and remote working, this is a community which has even flourished more. And we have good technology platform and infrastructure. Everything here is online available and on Zoom. Once we are back to work, we would also run the face-to-face meetups in Hyderabad. So Darshana's quick intro. She's the senior VP delivery governance in Virtusa, and is very passionate about number of new technologies and new ideas, and as well as fitness enthusiast. Low code, no code is an area she caught on to. Recently, it's an emerging topic. She holds very interesting views on the topic. We'll have opportunity to hear her. She has also, apart from Virtusa, worked in companies like Capgemini, where I've had opportunities. Just a second, sorry. So have had opportunity to hear her views on multiple topics. So let me just get on to the discussion with Darshana. Darshana, you have basically got into this new topic of low code, no code, and what makes it important for the business today. So can we get started on this topic, please?
Yeah, sure. Good afternoon, everyone. So this topic, as Renu mentioned, I started looking into this topic couple of quarters back, I would say. And I think there will be rarely anybody these days who have not heard about this topic. And why it caught my attention basically was I'm into delivery governance and delivery excellence function, and we have to, continuously look at newer ways and better ways of doing delivery more efficiently. Cost efficiencies is there on everyone's radar these days. So this topic really sounded interesting to me. While I've not come across any implementation in the services industry as such. So I'm going to give you probably a 30,000 feet view today because it's a vast topic. And more of, I wanted to give a leadership or the business view, a broad view, the big picture of where it all fits into, and talk about certain platforms and products which are there in the market, which we have been evaluating and understanding, what features and functionalities they provide. And more importantly, how all of this really brings ROI to the companies. So that's what I thought I will cover today. So as I said, I think this topic is one of the top topic which is being discussed in the industry. And low code, no code, I think the way title says, it is developing applications for business using either no code or minimal code, right? So it's a I mean both. Can you go to the previous slide, Renu? Renu, are you there? I can't. Okay, fine. So low code, no code. And no code is typically for business users, process owners, and there is a big realization these days that all of the knowledge of the business is with this community, and this community has to rely on the technical teams to be able to deliver the features faster to the business. Right, so that's why this concept came up. Is this a new concept? Not at all. Since the time I have started coding, that is around 25-30 years back, I'm talking about, right? Fourth generation languages and packages for developing business applications without writing codes have been there. So what makes it a big deal right now? I think that is something which I wanted to throw some light. Why it is so important? If it has been there for last 2 to 3 decades, I would say, in some shape and form, definitely, I mean, the maturity would be different, but why it is so important now? And this is what my perspective is based on what I've heard from the industry experts, and more importantly, those who are really looking into this platform as a way to deliver faster, better, cheaper applications to the business, right? So last 1.5 year has been too tough for everybody. And before and after, if I take a view for the IT industry, the whole paradigm of what are the priorities for customers, right? In different industries has become much more consistent. Okay, I would say it has changed and become much more consistent. Everybody wants to do digital transformation. That is, I mean, one line requirement I can talk about, which I'm hearing from every customer with whom we are interacting with, whether it is banking and financial services, whether it's a healthcare, whether it's a telco, digital transformation is at the top for everybody. So where the problem starts, right? And digital transformation, I mean, from the business point of view, is not about technology. It is about their customer experience, right? How do we deliver products to customer, cheaper, better, faster? And not only that, one more important dimension to that is the experience, right? The experience has become extremely important these days. So while, enterprises were looking at how do you really get there to deliver that experience, and at the same time, there is a huge cost pressure to deliver that better and richer experience with a very, very minimal cost. The cost takeout and profitability is also an important aspect of the whole thing. What happened, the realization came in, like lot of investments have gone into making the experience richer by doing the front end better. Okay, so lots of technologies are there these days to get omni-channel experience, have the app on mobile, web, app, everything, right? So a lot of investments went into this aspect of giving that front end experience to the customer. And this is for B2B as well as B2C, both groups, right? A lot of investment went into it. But when really it came to delivering faster, and which became much more important after pandemic, right? The first experience of pandemic, when everybody is gearing towards that, right? And the competition has increased tenfold, right? The realization came in that while the front end is richer and experience is great, but the backend system automation is so weak that the time taken to address a specific request from the customer, that is taking a big hit, not because of the interface, but because of the backend system not being integrated or automated, or being too heavy, monolithic, so that the entire business process or the entire user scenario becomes too long. I mean, it takes longer time, and that time factor was really not being addressed to the extent the front end was addressed, right? So there is a larger need right now to be able to integrate all the backend processes better, and don't have the fragmented systems. Automation is at the top in that, whether it is a RPA based automation, or it is a BPM, or it is based on some machine learning algorithms, whatever, all the new technology, the buzzwords you can use there. But the fundamental thing is the backend processes are not automated, not efficient. And all the knowledge of these backend processes reside with the business users and the process experts in the company, and not with the technology teams. And this is also not new, right? I mean, we get requirements from this group and then give it to the technology teams, and then they develop the application. We have not heard about a development program, at least in the services paradigm, which has been not more than, or not less than 6 months in duration, and not less than 20-30 people in team size. Okay, so if that is the timeline we are looking at, business is not ready to accept that right now, because it is taking a big hit on the revenue as well as profitability, the back-end system not being integrated. And that's where this concept is really becoming more and more interesting in the enterprises, that how about having citizens to develop the applications. And citizens meaning those who understand the business processes, those who really understand the business, those who understand where all the data is coming from for which user scenario, can they develop the application. And that's where the no code concept is taking a lot more, there's a lot more interest in this concept right now. But as I said before, this was there even 30 years back, right? It's not a new concept, but definitely there is a lot of investment going into it. A lot of product companies are coming with newer platforms so that you can get this so-called backend automation done more efficiently. That's where it stands. And low code means you need to do minimal amount of code, but typically use the ready-made system, drag and drop products, use APIs which are available for a particular domain, use the integration technology faster, so fast that you can talk about delivering certain features or applications to the business in days and weeks, and not in months and years. So that's the concept. Okay. So I really wanted everybody to understand this big picture, right? I mean, this is very important. Yeah. And let's go to the benefits now quickly. So very much at the top, there is a speedy delivery, which is the topmost requirement from all the customers we are interacting, right? Reduced maintenance. Everybody knows who are in technology, the technical debt is going on increasing day by day, and the amount of dollars which we have to put in the maintenance of the applications, and the speed at which technologies are becoming outdated, it is really becoming more and more cumbersome and costly affairs. So reduced maintenance is definitely a big advantage. Then customer experience, I talked about that at the beginning, and that's the, I think, starting point for low code, no code, in my view. Customer experience is the starting point. Integration of legacy systems, fragmented backend systems can be integrated with a very faster pace, and of course, improved productivity. Many benefits are there, but it is not really, so simple as it sounds, and or as it's sounding right now based on what I'm telling you. It has a lot more complexity behind, like any other, technology, concept, which these days we talk about, right? So let's move on to so that's the, Renu, I wanted to give this big picture to everybody. And this is what, based on what I have heard personally from our customers in different industry verticals, right? So this is what it is right now, and we can maybe now deep dive into, what it has to offer.
Hey, thanks, Darshana, and sorry for the wrong slide. I had a little disruption on my door, so I
No
had to
problem.
go, and I just accidentally moved to the next slide. Anyway,
problem.
so thank you. Thanks for all the discussion around what the topic is, why the industry is using it, what are the key benefits. Now let's talk about what are the platforms which are prevalent. What are the platforms you see being used by the industry, and if you have any recommendations, so let's talk about that.
Yeah, definitely.
Darshana.
Yeah, so let me start with this Gartner Magic Quadrant view. And this is 2020, a little old. But still it is not that old also. So let's look at this, right? And this is the typical view we get in services industry. We start with the analyst report and then understand what each product and platform has to offer, and then we do the selection. So in this, if you see the top or leaders quadrant, if I see, which are visionaries and excellence in execution, both together. Salesforce is there, OutSystem, Mendix, Microsoft, Appian, and ServiceNow. I think if you are really, have spent some time into this topic last couple of days, I'm sure you must have heard all these names. And as we are speaking, this Mendix World Conference is going on, and Renu, I was talking about that conference. Then later I realized that it starts in the evening, so I'm not going to miss. So Mendix World is the conference, and a lot of interesting topics they have come up with, and different case studies, more importantly, what they've already implemented, right? So here I'm not going to, support a specific platform or product, right? I'm giving a very balanced and independent view on everything. But Salesforce has been really very, very popular these days for application development platform. And the other two, which really, of lot more interest or becoming more popular. And when we do the evaluations from the services industry point of view, what do we recommend to our customers? I think Mendix and OutSystems are definitely, at the top, and it matches with what Gartner is saying. ServiceNow has a different, is being used in a different, domain, a little bit different domain, more on the, operations automation and things like that. And Appian also, it really, I felt that they have rich capabilities on the integration side. So Appian integration, I found it rich. So each platform has its pros and cons. And to tell you frankly, unless you really deep dive, the answer is in really detail, right? Because all of you must have come across this, right? Using a third party product and the platform. It always has some challenges when you come across, when you get into the lot more details. So that's where it is. I think we'll talk more about what these platforms have to offer now. So this is a typical picture, okay? And it could be different for different products, which I talked about, or different platforms I talked about. But this is what is the coverage typically for any low code platform. And I've picked up this from OutSystems. So you have, first of all, full stack development, drag and drop features where you can build your UI quickly, whether it is for the mobile app or for the web, you can build it quickly. Then you have the business logic layer and the process layer. So many platforms offer the BPM capabilities, workflow capabilities, and the business rules capabilities. Now, at Virtusa, we have been, leaders in the integration space for the BPM platform Pega, right? So I have seen that for last 15 years, doing complex business process automation through Pega, right? So as I said before, this all has been there. So what is different now? On the BPM layer, you put RPA layer to do stuff which was being done by human intervention earlier, right? That's the newer architecture, so-called, right? So that is where these platforms are really looking at better and better enhancements. Like, for example, Appian, I think they have collaborated with Blue Prism RPA platform, right, to give a seamless experience in terms of workflow, right? So old workflow was, I have certain processes, but every intervention required, or say approval required in a typical process, was human intervention. Now that is also being replaced by either RPA technology or bots or AI, right? The machine learning algorithms. So it's really a seamless workflow is what we are talking about here. Then the last layer is data. So all this entire full stack is offered by these platforms. Then the integration. Now this is where, I personally have doubt most of the times that, integration with your existing systems or with the legacy systems has to be really powerful for us to propose this for enterprise customers. And to tell you frankly, I think we need to be looking at enterprise customers and small startups and small companies differently, because the requirements and needs are totally different. So my advice to all of you is, you look at that perspective first, right? Are you suggesting these platforms for enterprise customer, or you are suggesting this platform for a small company, startup company? Then the requirements are different, your tool set could be totally different, right? Okay, so integration is part and parcel of this, and I talked about that in the beginning, that the whole driver for this low-code platform was integration and automation and faster delivery. So comprehensive integration features have to be there in these platforms. Then again, the third part is the full lifecycle management, continuous integration, continuous delivery, deployment, one-click deployment. All that has to be there, covered in this. And then the last piece is the multiple devices, right? So you should be able to do a web application, mobile application. You should be able to offer APIs or use APIs, existing APIs, which are provided by third parties for different industry verticals. And then chat, voice, SMS, email interface. So this is in a nutshell what a low-code platform has to offer typically, but it could be more or less depending on which platform you're choosing. Now comes this whole maze of different platforms available in the market. And this is a very self-explanatory slide. And, to be fair, I have not looked at each and every product which is being shown up here. But some of them I already talked about. But why this slide is important in my view is to understand different components of a ecosystem in the typical enterprise, right? What could be the requirements and which platform is more geared up to deliver those requirements. And hence, if you are into low-code development, or if you are in advisory or consulting for low-code development, important that we know more and more about what is available in the market, because that ecosystem understanding has to be there if we really have to, do a recommendation on a platform. So here, quickly going through all the components, right? Again, they are self-explanatory: chatbots, email interface, voice interface, mobile apps, business app, web apps, then cloud migration, cloud native development, then scrapers like Parse Hub, where you have to do natural language processing. Typically, these scrapers are used there. Then testing automation. Automation of testing automation is one more concept, right? In the testing automation, historically, we require those who can write test scripts based on the test case, so that we can run those test cases in an automated way later in the life cycle. But now it is gone a little bit forward, and we are saying we don't even need to write those automated test scripts. Instead, we should be able to have an AI engine which can read the requirements and deliver us the automated test scripts, right? So that's the extreme automation we are talking about. So that's the testing space. Then connectors and integration is extremely important, because the entire concept is based on best in class integration capabilities. So this, in fact, if we are really looking at enterprise scenario, this becomes the most important part. And if we are looking at the small companies or startups, I think for them more important is web development or mobile development. So those are the things, and e-commerce, those are the things which are much more important for those companies.
Hey, Darshana, thank you so much.
Yeah.
It seems like a vast landscape, right?
Right.
As much as we learned about coding, and that much you see now much more into no coding.
Right. Yeah.
So,
So the amount
interesting.
of work remains same if somebody has to really.
So earlier we were doing the selection exercise around, okay, which coding platform. Now you want to check around which no coding platform.
Right, right.
Okay, so now having gone through all this, what do you believe are the risks and challenges? So I understand that when you are wanting quick development, especially for born on the cloud kind of companies, you look for low code, no code scenario. But what are the risks, in this kind of platform selection?
Right. So again, as I have been saying, right, two scenarios. If I take a small enterprise and the small company startups and the enterprise landscape, I feel this is a really a great opportunity for startups and those who have much smaller investments in IT, right? And they want their business up and running faster. For them, it is really a great opportunity, and I have seen multiple use cases, case studies, where the business has gone live digitally in no time, almost no time, right? So uh, and there, the business complexities are also less, and the requirements are much clear, and even the integration needs are much less in those scenarios, right? But when you take the enterprise scenario, right, especially when you have enterprises where the compliance and regulatory compliance, like banking industry or even the healthcare industry, there I think it's still a question mark in my mind. And my take on that is, I think those who have implemented using low code platform, we really need to closely look at what challenges they have faced or what risks they have come across, right? And integration, as I have been saying, in a bank or in a healthcare setup, a large enterprise setup, there are a lot of core systems which are monolithic in nature, developed on old legacy platform. Typically these days, one more architectural construct which has been more popular is the microservices layer, creating microservices layer using API, all of that, right? But there, I think the integration becomes the topmost need. If we can't integrate, I think it won't serve the business purpose. So that needs to be, looked at by doing a proper POC. Proof of concept is extremely important, and one size fits all will not work there, right? Every enterprise, even if I take 10 companies in a healthcare setup, I know that every company will function differently, while the core of the business remains same. And those who have worked in the services setup, they will vouch for this, right? Every company is different. So I think the best way to mitigate this risk is to do a small POC on a medium to complex use case. Take a business scenario and do a POC. Work with these platforms. So that's the mitigation strategy. And then some platforms have some proprietary scripting language, so you end up learning some language, if not Java or Python or that kind of language. You end up learning some proprietary language. Not all platforms need this. I think you have to really watch out for this, that is there a need, what is the learning curve, right? How much time it takes for a developer to understand what features are being offered and how to use them. Is there a need for learning new language? I think these aspects need attention when you choose the platform. The third thing is, I think very important, and I'm still, in two minds. How do we really, recommend these to enterprise customers? That is the vendor lock-in problem and hard to debug applications, right? Ultimately, most of the platforms, the way they work is you get the drag and drop facility, you build your application. Customization is possible, I would say. It's not that customization not possible. Every platform will offer you customization, most of them. But there also you can write the codes in bits and pieces for customization, and you don't get to see the end-to-end code eventually, right? You have to run in the ecosystem of that platform. So you get locked into the vendor. Is it good, bad? It depends. It depends on which vendor also. Like, for example, we have been working with Pega in BPM space for multiple years, and those vendors who have a great support system, great services, if we face problems, I think those matured vendors should not be a big problem in this. But we have to really watch out for small product companies who have come up with the platforms. If they really don't have proper services, support service or support ecosystem, then I think we'll land up in a problem. So this needs to be really watch out for. And customization I talked about for non-trivial use cases. I think it depends on whether your story or the use case or the business scenario, how complex it is. Trivial use cases, you can always go for this platform, but the complex use cases where you integrate with multiple systems, the data sources are complex. You're for a particular use case, you need data from multiple data sources. If all of these requirements are there, then it becomes a little tough. And again, the approach is to go POC way, take a small use case, implement it, and see whether what you need is provided by the platform. So those are a couple of things I wanted to share.
So Darshana, given you say that may not integrate well, which means like if I have some system integration scenario, which may my alternate choice may be to do some development and integrate the systems, and I may be considering low code application. Is it possible, or you'll not recommend?
It is possible. It is possible. Like you take Appian, I was going through a little more detail because they talk a lot about integration, right? Even OutSystem and Mendix have the integration capability, because that's the heart of it. Any matured low-code platform will have integration in some shape and form, right? Because as I said in the beginning, the trigger for this is more integration, more automation, more backend automation to provide that customer experience, right? So every platform offers it. Only thing in what form and shape, and we have to really understand which business use cases they have implemented to get to the bottom of it, to understand in our scenario it will work or it will not work. Renu.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. So moving on from this, you spoke so much about what got you into it, how will it benefit the industry, what are the various platforms, what are the risks you see. Now, considering all this, what's your take? Which way would you go?
Yeah, right. So, I mean, some of it I covered, but let me reiterate and some new points, right? Definitely, this is a exciting way of looking at, the business, IT business, IT requirements, right? Definitely something which is new. And again, I mean, one more dimension, right? I mean, there is a lot of debate and discussion about, so do we need developers in future or not? I don't think we have matured so much, first of all, to release all the developers and use some low code platform. That's not the objective. I think the objective is very similar to why we are talking about AI also these days. It's like doing some routine tasks, integration work, automation for the mundane work to be done by this platform, so that the skilled employees can look into more what is richer aspects and complex aspects. So that's the objective, right? So having said that, again, for the small businesses, it's really extremely great platform. You can have your business up and running in no time and very low cost. especially mobile app development and chatbots, conversational AI, all these are really, at the top. But enterprise, large enterprise, I would say there is still a question mark. And that question mark comes from two aspects. One is whether the complex integrations are possible, and the second is regulatory compliance and the security related aspects, right? Which platform provides security control? I think that is going to be of prime importance to the large enterprises. So having said that, is there any other midpoint, right? Whether we do entire coding or no coding, is there a midpoint? So from that perspective, my view is there are many other things we can really do, to get that speed and quality which we are expecting, right? One is AI assisted development. Some of the bullet points have put AI assisted development, where I talked about using AI to do automation of QA, right? One example. We can also use AI to understand whether the requirement clarity is good or not. And if you are into software development, most of the times we end up into trouble, not because of some coding or design issues, but mostly because of the requirements not being clear, right? So there you can use AI. Then the other things to explore is API library, very fast, really fast way of doing business applications. And these API libraries are available for different industries, and they're very secured, and some standard libraries are provided. Like for example, Red Hat ecosystem, Fuse system, right? As a very good platform for integration and using API libraries. So these are the other ecosystem components, right? Collaborative development, single click cloud deployment. And this is so easy and low hanging fruit, right? In many projects, even today, I see that end-to-end end-to-end automation of the deployment or so-called continuous integration is not really done, right? We feel that, this is something which is very straightforward, should have been done in every IT setup, but it is not done. I have seen it personally when I reviewed. We look at 1,000+ projects at any given point in time in a company like Virtusa, right? It is not done, right? And customers have challenges. So why don't we fast track some of these things which have been there and which are very matured, and get that speed and quality which we are looking for low code platforms to deliver, if that is not the solution? Or else we have to go POC way and implement our most complex business use case, and see whether platform has the entire support to implement such use cases. So this is what my take is right now. But as I said, Renu, I'm also learning. Newer things are coming every day. So yeah, but I think there are a lot more things we can do to get that end-to-end automation, seamless experience, great quality, faster deployment. I think there are many things one can explore other than low code.
Hey, that's great, Darshana, and I'm really inspired. What I feel inspired about is, as we move up in our careers, how we manage time, how we inspire others, how we create more women of our level, and how we grow diversity, and how we keep ourselves fit and learning all the time. So I see all that happening with you, right? So that really inspires me. So let me now navigate into some personal questions, right? So you seem to be a fitness enthusiast, right? And having seen what's going around in the world currently, and with so much of focus now all of a sudden happening on wellness, and I'm sure it's not a surprise for you, because world has lost on wellness aspects of late, and now all this appreciation and awareness is falling in place. So what's been your experience in last couple of years in keeping yourself well and healthy and fit and performing, and how people should do it?
Yeah, I think that's something which is very close to my heart. See, I have been into fitness for long time. I've lost count of the years, and I had a little setback in my health after my delivery a long time back, and it was really bad, health related issues. And then I realized that nothing is more important than health, which I see a lot more people realizing in last 2 years. And everybody has, their own, what do you say, lesson, so-called lesson to learn, or wake up call, so-called wake up call, right? So I had that call maybe many years back, and I realized that unless you really pay attention to physical fitness, mental fitness, emotional fitness, whatever you call, right? It's not. I mean, you are really what do you say? Constrained by that all the time. If you want to do more and more in life, you have your goals to achieve at a professional level or personal level. More energy you have, more you are fit to do things. You can definitely have high productivity, high efficiency. And these days I say, right, tools is the not the only way to get high productivity. Low code platform is not the only way to get high productivity. But being fit, and have that energy throughout the day, then having sharp brain, all of this is equally important to get that productivity which we are looking for. And I have really spent a lot of time last, I would say, 5-6 years researching into different alternate medicine, and I really believe very passionately on food as a medicine. So I have been, learning yoga. I've done 500 hours international yoga certification because I really wanted to get deep into that aspect. And as you really put on more and more years, you realize that this aspect is so important, and it has to be on the top of your radar. And some of the tips I can really, share is number one is, I think these days everybody knows you have to eat healthy, you have to exercise, you have to sleep well. These are the, things which everybody is aware of. I would say that on the food side, pay attention to the nutrition richness of the food. That's the only one thing I'll tell. And if you really pay attention to how nutritionally rich the food is, I think that will go a long way. And you will definitely get a list of what to eat and what not to eat once you pay attention to only one point. And whether it is your emotional wellness, brain alertness, everything is linked to how your digestive health is and what you eat. Okay, everything, even the mental issues can crop up because of the digestive disorders and nutritional deficiencies. So that is extremely important at the top. And the second one is exercise regularly. Everybody talks about. I would say that pay attention to muscle retention. As you age, the muscles start, what do you say, your muscle mass starts reducing, especially, and I'm pointing to women, after 30, it becomes really a big problem. So while everybody says, and I'm sure many of you do exercise regularly, retention of muscle, keep that focus so that you know what type of exercise is more important. Just by doing walk, it doesn't help. You have to get into body weight training of some sort to make sure your health and fitness is given proper attention. That's on the exercise side. And the last but not the least, on the sleep and stress management, again, just if I have to give a short answer, make sure you are following the circadian rhythm. That's extremely important for your health and fitness. So we are talking, Renu, about all basics here. Okay, it's only about making your life disciplined enough to put these small things, into your lifestyle, integrate it so well in your lifestyle that you will not miss. So the way you won't miss on your lunch or dinner, you will not miss on your yoga session or the exercise session. That is how I look at it.
So Darshana very rightly said, we are talking basics, but looks like basics have become the rocket science today, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, moving on with our conversations. I have observed you and your progress, Darshana, and very impressive. You know, it's often very difficult, to break that. At one point of time, you feel that you're stuck at mid management, and I know you must have done something uniquely different to cross that path from mid to senior, right? And men and women alike, actually, all of us go through this stage where one moves on from mid to senior. What do you think it takes? What has and have there been any challenges, and what should one do?
Yeah, I think a great question, Renu. And in my experience, when I talk about IT industry, right, meritocracy has been really given a lot more attention. So I usually don't feel that there's a really distinction being made between men and women, especially, and I can talk only for IT industry here. Um, and more women get stuck at mid management level. At the same time, there are many men also. If I take the proportion percentage, right, it's not going to be a lot different, right? Like if I take some data points here, starting career start, we have typically 27 to 30%, 30% max women in the IT industry. Mid management level, it drops to half of that, so maybe 15%. And top management, where they take a responsibility of the function head or the delivery head, or a practice head kind of roles, there it further drops and it comes in the single digit on the lower side, right? And there are two aspects to this, and I'm not going to talk more about the personal work-life balance part of it, right? But more, if I take a professional setup, corporate, to overcome so-called challenges we face typically in the corporate in that stage. Number one is, I think, extremely important. You need to have a mentor who will understand what are your strengths, what are your improvement areas, what are your fear factors, what are your goals, like what are you up to in terms of where you want to go, really what's your 5-year 10-year plan like. So somebody who can really take an independent view of your strengths and do a SWOT analysis and continuously challenge you, help you to grow in a corporate setup, I think extremely important. And I always tell, right, don't wait for your companies to start the mentor programs. Today, unlike when if you just tap your LinkedIn network, you will find so many people who can really guide you on this, right? So I think this one-on-one mentorship coaching is the heart of it, I would say, Renu.
Oh, that's great. Actually, yeah, I mean, I agree that the platforms available and ability to find a good mentor is, the opportunities today are endless as compared to a time where you did not know how to reach out to the right people. So absolutely spot on. Thank you for that.
Right.
Let me just move on. I would, request some questions from the participants. There is a good group here. And Saraswati Narayan is my co-director in Women Who Code, and also is Bani Lean Korjoli, both are present. So Saraswati and Bani, if you can drive some discussion, questions from you, questions from participants. All right, so let's hear.
Sure, Renu. Darshana, it was a pleasure listening to you. Thank you so much for taking out time for this. It means a lot to Women Who Code, which is a fledgling chapter in Hyderabad, I would say. So thanks for all that. And, you know, I don't have any questions, but definitely, the fact that you spoke about low code, no code, the vendor lock-in, or, the scaling of it, large enterprises, all those were very relevant, and definitely learned a lot from that. And your passion for fitness did come across when you dwelt into so many details about each of those three basic things, right? Food, sleep, exercise. But you went into a bit of detail, what exactly should one look at, and couldn't agree more on the mentorship. I think, we need to do every bit that we can as leaders to ensure that we can provide such opportunities to those who wish. And I think all of us do benefit from mentors too as we progress. So thank you very much, Darshana. And with that, Bani, over to you if you have any questions, and also opening it up for all, right? So I think this is a wonderful opportunity. Let's make use of that and, ask our questions to
Sure.
Darshana.
Sure. Thank you so much, Saraswati, and thank you, Darshana, for this awesome session. Like, really enjoyed learning about all of the different pieces, I think, which Saraswati has very well put together already. Yeah. Once again, I would want to thank you on behalf of Women Who Code Hyderabad, and we're open to questions. Anybody has any questions, we'll be more than happy to take them up.
Yeah, hi. I have actually Darshana. Hi, Darshana. This is Vashni here. Actually, no code, as you told that low code is there from decades, but people nowadays we are hearing it more. Is it the reason that earlier low code was not supporting multiple things? Is it is it improved and it's giving more support now? Or
Yeah.
the reason I
So-
want? Yeah.
So there are two things I would like to say, Subhashini. I think one I covered in the beginning, that why suddenly everybody's attention on this topic, right? So definitely the earlier platforms, the older platforms, even if I see a journey from 30 years from now, right, 30 years back, I think the richness in the functionality, ease of use, that is definitely increased. Okay. More and more products are available now. I have not seen such a long list of products catering for so many dimensions in the software development earlier, right? But there were some products, as I said, BPM has been there for a long time now, right? But it still required the manual intervention for completing the process. But why this has become much more important is because of the digital transformation agenda which every company has. Like every business has to be digitally savvy, and to be able to do that, there's a realization that unless we integrate all of the backend processes, we can't provide that experience to the customer, that is faster, cheaper delivery to the customer and consumer. And hence there is a lot more attention, and hence there are more product coming up in the market. So it is going hand in hand, the demand and supply per se.
Okay. Yeah. Why? Because in a few means it's a very big ERP systems. We saw that we struggle
Yeah,
a lot
exactly.
for migrations that from backend systems. We faced a lot of issues during that time. Actually, no one helped us by suggesting these type of things.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Thank you so
maybe
much.
they were real challenges at that time, and maybe it has become more matured. But integration, as I said, is the heart of it. If we get integration right, I think everything else will fall in place.
Okay. Yeah. I will go through this. Yeah, more in detail. Thank you.
We can have few more questions. So let me ask one, Darshana. Where would you put a coding language like Python? That's one question. Another is, we use Tableau and Alteryx so much for, scorecard, dashboards, data science, and all that. One could do without code there, but at the same time, the same tool allows you to do coding as well. Where would you classify these tools? Tools like, say, language like Python, Tableau, Alteryx.
Yeah, these tools are definitely, I would say, they are also low-code platform, right? Even simple like Microsoft BI, which we have been using in our function, a lot, right? So it is user-centric. So user can, non-technical users can definitely use it for data visualization, creating dashboards, reports. So those tools are definitely in my view, low-code platforms only, but they have been there for a while, but the entire ecosystem creation has happened now. The data visualization and reporting, they are definitely low code platform. It will come in the low code platform only, and they can be used by non-technical people. We are using it in our group, right? So
Okay.
I think the API culture is a very important thing in this low code discussion, right? Really need to understand if we get a handle on available APIs for different industry verticals, I think that will solve a lot of problem, a lot more, the speed problem and the quality problem a lot. And then there is this mindset of always developing, thinking of API, right? Or the service. If we really get on top of that, I think creating that ecosystem will become much more easier.
Agree.
How are we doing on time? Renu, I can't see.
We have
Just,
we
yeah,
have
couple of
5 more minutes.
5 more minutes. No questions from the audience. Everything is clear.
No, actually,
Or I have made it more complex, so that
no,
there's no
it's
question.
so Darshana, it takes a bit of icebreaker, so I'm sure if we are here for 5 more minutes, then people would want to be here for 15 more minutes. I'm sure there are more questions. So let's allow some time. So actually, I almost saw Mr. Surinder speaking. So and maybe it looks like a lot of people are hesitating. So
I see some familiar names here.
Not want to call out names, but yeah, your team is present very much, Darshana.
No, I don't want to, I really want people to take initiative and ask questions. If they have one, if they don't have questions also, no pressure.
Any more questions, team? Okay, so if not, I just wanted to request, all of you, please make Women Who Code platform popular among your friend circle. And today we have had good crowd, 30 plus people. It's so nice to see, flourishing community. The fact that we just started 6 months back, it is good to see great speakers and great participation and very upcoming topics. Darshana, on behalf of all of us and Women Who Code directors, Bani, Saraswati, and myself, my sincere thanks for you to have accepted the invite, and it's been very engaging discussion. Really enjoyed and appreciated.
Thanks a lot, Renu, and thanks to Women Who Codes. I think it's a really nice initiative, and I was going through some of the events, and they're really interesting events, and I am going to sign up for some of them. I really enjoyed interacting with you and your team and the audience here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
So much, Darshana.
Thank
you,
you.
Renu, for organizing this.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
so
you.
much.
And please feel free to write to Darshana in case you have any question offline. She's darshanapai1@gmail.com.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
See you all. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Thank you.